Financial planning is a topic that I'm very passionate about. Looking ahead for 2025, I want to share with you some tools that I've used and some tips that I've learned along the way of my financial journey. I'm going to be walking through two spreadsheets with you. One is a spending tracker and the other is a financial snapshot. Disclaimer, this video isn't being promoted by anything or anyone. I'm just sharing my own personal experience and tools that I use. You can find plenty of other more professional financial advice out there. Today I'm going to be sharing two sheets with you. The first is a spending tracker, and the second is a financial snapshot. To give you an overview of this sheet, I have a table that tracks all of my spending by month, the type. For my purposes, I do it by credit and checking, and I'll explain that in a minute. The category, which then translates the amount over to this column. So these are my different categories. The amount of the transaction, and then a comment. For example, entertainment would be movie tickets or concert tickets. Travel could include airline travel, the hotel room, etc. Miscellaneous, if it doesn't fall into one of these categories, I'll list it there and type out what it was. My two categories are credit and checking. Credit is anything I pay by credit card. Checking is anything that comes out of my checking account. The categories that I have are listed here that I've used the most over the years. So you may be wondering, why are these highlighted in green? I don't necessarily consider these categories something that's a debit. To me, they're more fixed. So my mortgage, of course, is a fixed amount that comes out every month. Investments, same thing. If I'm going to invest anything into Robinhood, it's supposed to grow. Obviously, that's a risk. IRA. See how on track I am to max out my IRA for 2025. Insurance would be my car insurance. That's pretty fixed every 6 months. And it's a necessity because I have a car and you have to have insurance. I'll show you how this table works. You'll see here, right, you have your columns of your categories and the amount. And it's a simple formula. For example, let's say grocery. I spend $50. See how it shows up there? And it'll do that throughout this whole table all the way down through December. For purposes of what I'm going to show you with how this works, I'm using fake numbers, trying to keep it simple. Let's say the mortgage is $1,500 a month. So you'll see it goes in this category here, in this row. And then it's under checking. And then the groceries under credit. So this little table here, it's looking for the word credit, and then it'll put the respective amount from this column here, and then it totals up. So that's what this table is going to do. It's going to take all your monthly expenses and summarize it here. When I go to the next month, $1,500, and I type in mortgage, it shows up in this table. Pretty simple. Let's just say that this single table is going to summarize all 12 months. Spent $38,600, $27,000 for my checking, $11,000 for my credit. What's the purpose of this spreadsheet? It gives me a good glance to see where I'm spending money. And at the end of the year, I can look at this and it'll show me areas where I could reduce some spending. Mainly reduce, because I'm not going to want to necessarily increase my spending. So I think it's a really useful tool. It's something I came up with. It uses very simple formulas. I made it how I want. I know there are apps out there that you can utilize to probably do the same thing, or pay for an app that does it all for you. But I personally like to sit down and actually type it in and look at it, and it makes me think about my spending habits. This next spreadsheet is definitely more intricate than the other one. It does utilize similar tools. This is a spreadsheet that I've used since college. It was actually provided to me in one of my business classes. We had to make a budget for ourselves, and I've manipulated it a little bit for my own personal use nowadays. But let me give you an overview. At the top here, I have my inputs, and then this will be my cash inflow and cash outflow. And then down here, I'll get into this, but it essentially shows my balances for all my accounts, and I can even project what it'll look like however many years in the future. Not with the gains portion, but just simply how much am I putting into it and what would that look like. For purposes of this spreadsheet, I'm also going to use made-up numbers. I'm going to assume I have a salary of $60,000, and this is how much in taxes is being taken out, and this column here corresponds to the dollar value. For simplicity, it's just going to be divided by 12 months. In real life, I get paid bi-weekly, so 2 months out of the year, I get a third paycheck, and then I put in $400 for benefits, so your health insurance, whatever insurance is, and I'm assuming a 10% of the income's going into the 401k for retirement. And at the end of those calculations, this is your monthly net pay, $32.55. This is for the year 2025. I have every month listed in each column. And then this column right here is going to show you the total for the year. So after taxes, benefits, your take-home pay, you're actually taking home $35,000. But my mortgage is fairly fixed, so let's just say it's $1,500 a month. And it's going to stay like that over the course of the year. So this first section here are your fixed payments. So after my fixed expenses, I only have $1,100 left over. Let me zoom in on here. For this example, let's just say we're paying $60 every other month. And you'll notice this column here again is filling in for the totals for the year. Groceries. Well, groceries have gotten so expensive in 2024. I'm going to say $100 a month. Water bill, I'm going to say $50 a month. And electric, I'll say $200 a month. The benefit of this spreadsheet is you can make it however you want. You might have rent. You might have a car payment. You just stick those up here because they're fixed monthly expenses. As I showed you on the other spreadsheet, I had all those other categories. Theoretically, I could put them all in here, but sometimes I don't want to type it all out because I'm already tracking it in one place. This is just a snapshot, a larger overview. So instead, I could just put them all under credit if I wanted to, and then go to that other spreadsheet for the specific breakdown. But these are the main categories for the most part that I'm tracking. And then anything else would go under personal. So let's just say it's $200 for everything else. And that should be $200. I have a remaining row again. This shows me what's left over. Subtracting the sum of this balance. It's taking this number up here, subtracting all of this, and now this is what I have left. I have $600, $665 left. And for math purposes, let's just say the miscellaneous spending is $65.70. All right. Now the true remaining amount I have left at the end of this month is $600. And then I could decide, okay, what do I want to keep in my checking? What do I want to move to my savings? So this whole section up here is my monthly inflow and outflow. And again, you can customize it however you want, whatever fits your needs. This table is pretty easy to build. If you don't want to do this math up here, which I usually don't, I honestly just look at my paycheck and I stick my net take home up in this box here. And then I put all my actuals in that come from that spending sheet that I showed you. Moving down to this section, this is where it gets a little fun. For purposes of this video, I'm viewing it as if I was a single person just budgeting for myself. I am married. We have somewhat combined finances. I'm not going to get into all that because it gets more complicated, but you could do the same thing with two people's inputs into these cells. For this column here, this is going to use what I already have in my account. So let's say I have $5,000 in my checking. And then my savings, let's say I have $2,000. High yield savings, essentially you could just put whatever your balance is in there. You could calculate the interest you earn on that amount and drag it across, but I'll leave it alone for now. Let's say I have 1,000 investments. Let's say I have 50,000 in a 401k, 30,000 in an IRA, HSA is 20,000. I know these numbers look funky. I'm just using made-up ones. It's honestly dependent on your situation. Now, what this did right here, liquid cash, that's just between my checking and savings. And retirement, it adds up these three: 401k, IRA, HSA. So what's the purpose of this? Well, what I can do here is this balance is going to change monthly. So my checking is going to be that cell plus this cell, because this is how much I'm putting into my checking. So I started the year with 5,000, and I'm adding in these 300 from the checking. Same with the savings. By the end of January, these columns show the ending monthly balance. I'm putting $300 in there. So end of January, after my net income, after my expenses, this is what I have left. So looking at the next month, I would do this cell plus whatever in here. I drag it across and you'll see it repeats the same cells from the previous month. For these, I could go in monthly and just see what the balance is at the end of January. I mean, maybe it went up by 1,000. So those are my manual inputs. Before January, I had this much in my accounts. I ended January up by this much. I can look at how much money I have left over each month. Some months it might be higher, some it might be lower, and it might even be negative. For example, let's just say I went crazy and had a really big purchase and it was $800. Now it's a negative number because I spent more money than I made. So this gives you a visualization of what your money's doing over time, and it can help you budget better. Moving on to this final section of the spreadsheet. You don't have to use this tool if you don't want to. I personally like it because I like having a projection of where my money and balances are going to be 5 years from now, for example. For purposes of this, you would actually get your ending year balance for 2025. That requires filling in this whole spreadsheet. So let me just input a number. Let's say I ended the year with, let's just say it's 65,000. And let's say that the Roth IRA started at 30. Let's just say I put in 7,000 for the year and it made some money. We'll put in 40,000. So then I would take for this one my 401k amount, my IRA amount. Your emergency fund should be 3 to 6 months of living expenses. So your net income minus whatever you have left over is how much you spent, so $2,590. We'll just say it's $2,500 for math purposes. So if it's 3 months, $7,500. Anything in excess of that amount, your cash amount, that's whatever you want it to be. Last year I was saving for a home, so anything outside of my $7,500 in this example, let's say, goes towards my down payment savings. So this could be miscellaneous savings, whatever else is extra. This is where you're gonna be able to have an estimate of what your money will look like in the future just based on your cash inputs, not gains. So I ended 2025 at 65,000. Let's say next year I'm going to put in 10,000 into my 401k. IRA, same thing. Let's say I max it out at 7,000. HSA, let's just say I put in 4,000. So you can pull this down and it'll do the same formula. It'll take the previous year if I keep putting in 10,000. This will be the cash balance in 2030, not including any gains, and so on and so forth. So this gives you a little bit of an outlook on what your balances will be, your net worth, in the future. So I hope you enjoyed the video. These are great tools that you can customize for your own personal situation. They're very easy to make in Numbers or Excel, whatever you prefer. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.